Hello, my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riff Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriff.com. And our special guest tonight is Jack Russell's great white guitarist, Robby Lochner. We're going to be talking to Robby about for our Remembering Ronnie Montrose special. Welcome to the show, Robby. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good.
Now, I'd imagine, like a lot of people, that you were influenced by Ronnie Montrose. Is that safe to say?
Yes, it is.
So, could you share with us, what's the story of how you became a Ronnie Montrose fan? Was it that first classic album, like a lot of us, back in 1973?
Well, it wasn't as early as 73 when I first heard it, but yeah, it was that. I mean, it just, at a certain point, I think most people of a certain age, I guess you'd say, everybody's played, if you were a musician, you played that or you listened to that. First record was, it was the bomb,
Oh, yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, it's amazing that stuff is still being played, 40 years later now. I know you played the last few years in the latest edition of the Ronnie Montrose Remembered tribute concert took place in Anaheim about a week ago. And I seen a cool video of you playing with Andrew Freeman and Brad Lang and a couple other guys doing Free Ride. You guys really put on a great performance. Talk a little bit about doing that and taking part in the show.
It was really cool. I mean, it was just cool to see, how much stuff Ronnie played on that a lot of people don't even know. You might mention, Ronnie Montrose, and there's a bunch of people who are like, who? They don't even know that first record,
Yeah.
But they'll know Free Ride, and they'll know Brown Eyed Girl, and they'll know, a bunch of the Van Morrison stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize he had played on that stuff until Dan McNay, our bass player, had told me, because obviously he played with Ronnie, and so he had a lot of history that he filled me in on. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So now when I hear that, I mean, I just know it. I go, oh, yeah, you could just recognize the sound that he had for Van Morrison, and then just completely different when he played, like on Free Ride. He really had that 70s blues rock thing that just, different than what he did on that first Montrose album.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Robby, because like you, I was, of course, aware of those first two Montrose albums, and, shortly after Ronnie had passed away, I got this DVD of, they put on a tribute show, like, shortly after he died, up in San Francisco that first year, and it had people like Derek St. Holmes, they had Sammy Hagar, Bill Church, all the original Montrose guys, and then Joe Satriani was stepping in for Ronnie, and Neil Schoen. They had a lot of great kind of named guys show up at that event. And so somebody sent me a copy of a DVD to review, and I was just amazed like you that after watching the DVD, not only was I amazed at how much great music there was featured on that DVD that night, but again, I got thinking, I thought, when I think of Montrose, I just think of those first two albums. I had no idea all this other music existed. And like you, Free Ride is a great example of that, because that's a classic rock tune I've been a huge fan of for years, and I had no idea until recently that Ronnie played on that. And like you, I'm like, how could I have not known that,
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt too. Like, wow, how did I not know that?
Yeah, and if you're a Ronnie Montrose fan at all, I'm sure you know that he as great of a guy he was doing his own original music. He did a few cover tunes, and really, Ronnie, when he would cover somebody's tune, he would really rock it up and make his own. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example of that. On Paper Money, there's a song called Connection, which many people will be surprised to learn that's actually a Rolling Stones tune. But Ronnie's version is more of like of a ballad. And if you listen to the two songs, next side by side, they sound like two completely different songs.
Yeah, he was, he definitely was a master of just, creating a thing, whatever the song was, he played to the song, Yeah. That was what was so great about him. When you listen song to song, everything he did, it's like, well, he played for the song,
Yeah, and I'll give you a little bit of trivia. You may or may not know this. Another great cover tune he did was featured on that debut album. Any idea which song that would be?
On the debut album, probably, I wouldn't know for sure, but if I had to guess, I would say Good Rockin' Tonight.
You hit it on the nail, my friend, and I was, and the only reason I know that is because about a year ago they reissued those first two Montrose albums and remastered them, and they put some great bonus tracks on there. and it was only after I read the songwriting credits that I seen that it was written by somebody who's not even in the band, and I do a little research, find out it was originally an Elvis tune from back in the 50s, and I actually went on YouTube and listened to the original version, which is much more of a rockabilly tune. But and again, Ronnie, see, that's a song I've heard all these years, not even knowing that, and Ronnie was just such a great musician. You thought of that as a Montrose song, even though it wasn't.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and now talk about playing the event. You guys have been playing for the last couple of years, I know. What's it like, to, as a guy that grew up on this music, to get a chance to play a tribute show like this, and you get all these great musicians coming together, kind of in the spirit of not only paying tribute to Ronnie, but kind of keeping the music alive, the legacy, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, and getting to mix it up with guys that, I know Brad Lang.
Yeah.
Not well, but I know Brad, so he was the only one I knew. The other guys I didn't know, and it was really cool to be able to play with guys I didn't know, just kind of go in and go, okay.
Yeah, like you said, in your current band, Jack Russell's Great White, you play with Dan McNay. Dan, like a lot of those guys at the show that night. See, that's the cool thing about that show. It's put on by Keith St. John, who was like one of the last singers to play with Ronnie, and a lot of those guys that take part in the show, like Ed Roth, I think, who played with you that night too. These were guys that were not just influenced by Ronnie, but they actually played with him.
Sure, yeah, that's what's cool. For me to be able to play, in that situation is great, because I didn't play with him. For me, it's just honoring the man, but knowing several guys, obviously knowing Keith and Dan playing in the band and stuff, and Brad. I don't know if Brad played with him or not, but I'm thinking maybe he did. He might have.
I don't think. I think he told me that he met Ronnie like once or twice, but he didn't really know him that well, and I don't think he did play with him. But see, the other thing about a guy like Ronnie Montrose, as great of a player as he was, he also surrounded himself by other musicians that were equally talented as he was. I mean, as evident at that Ronnie Montrose Remember concert. I mean, for example, he in like 1987, his drummer at the time, I think, was James Kodak, who would go on to be the drummer for Scorpions for 20 plus years. So that just goes to show Ronnie's influence. And I know a couple years back you had actually played with Rob Halford. Is that correct? In Fight?
Yes.
And how did you and Rob hook up?
Actually, I sent a tape to his company. It's called EMAS at that time, Entertainment Management Advisory Service, and it was the recommendation of Razor Ray DiCarlo, who was a DJ at KNAC at the time. He said, hey, send in a tape to Rob's company. They help hook guys up in bands. So I thought, she can't hurt. I was getting ready to move to California. Anything I could do to try and meet and find people to play. And, so I sent him this cassette that had a thing I put together called Can of Whoop Ass. That's all I sent him was that guitar thing.
Wow.
And then a nice package with photos and, nice write-up and stuff. But a lot of people I'd been sending, songs that I had recorded and stuff. But I thought, you know what, this one I'm just going to send just that. And he remembered it. He had it for about 8-9 months. And when his guitar player quit, he remembered it. And he called me up. He told me, he goes, I knew right away who the guy was I wanted in the band.
Now, Robbie, did you play on any of those Fight CDs, or were you just in the touring band?
Just touring the end of the War of Words tour.
Now, see, it's amazing. That War of Words album has pretty much stood the test of time. I mean, you could play that and it sounds pretty decent. It doesn't really sound dated, but I'm sure, like a lot of people, you were a diehard Priest fan. So when you went to do the Fight stuff, how surprised were you? I mean, it's drastically different from Priest. If you know what I mean? Yeah,
it is. I mean, it was just mostly like being tuned down really made a difference on it being what it was. But it was different. I mean, that was the trickiest thing, because I mean, at that point I had 5 days to learn 20 songs, and there were 7 Priest songs, and the Priest songs are like most of them I'd played before, so it was like, okay, piece of cake, learn those, ready to go. The Fight stuff, it was like, I wasn't that familiar with it. I'd heard Crazy and I think one other song, and so I'm the first day I was learning songs, I just would go through and get all the way through the song, learning, and I went through the whole album like that, learned everything, went through the album, came back, couldn't remember a thing.
Yeah, And so when you were coming up, Robbie, who were some of your guitar heroes, the guys that influenced you to do what you're doing these days?
There's a lot, but it really started off with guys like Richie Blackmore. Love Blackmore, big Blackmore fan, and then Ted Nugent was a guitar hero when I was a kid. Michael Schenker, and Van Halen, and after really kind of going through the Van Halen thing, my influence, I really wasn't really listening because I was writing and doing my own band thing, so I wasn't paying as much attention. But what I was listening to was I started listening to Bach and Beethoven and Mozart and Paganini. Wow. So I started kind of shifting, what was influencing my playing. Even though I came up on that whole blues-based rock and was listening to,
that kind of makes sense, especially if you're a Richie Blackmore fan, because people may not even realize that a lot of Richie Blackmore's influences were about neoclassical stuff. It's kind of interesting. If you listen to what he's doing now with the band Blackmore's Night, it sounds nothing. It sounds nothing like Deep Purple or Rainbow. I'll give you that. Yeah. And in fact, I was kind of surprised because, like a lot of people, I kind of just I didn't listen to any of that just because he's doing folk music. I'm not really into that, but. Somebody had sent me a CD of his, Blackmore's Night CD to kind of review and listen to, and I listened to it with open ears, and again, it's not like Deep Purple, but I can respect it for what it is, Yeah,
it's good. There's no question. It's good.
Yeah. And now, I know these days you're playing with Jack Russell, so you've been playing with him for a number of years, kind of since he split from the other band. How did you and Jack initially hook up? Was it another audition process? Did you know Jack?
No, not at all. It was actually Derek Pontier, he had played with Jack for 5 years, I think around, I can't remember the years, 2004 to 2009, something like that. And I met Derek at a NAMM Jam in 2011, and Dario Satius was with him and brought him out to this NAMM Jam. He brought Derek out, and we ended up playing together, the three of us, and it was pretty cool. We played a bunch of songs, never had played together, and it was kind of cool. And then about a month later, Derek gets a hold of me and said, let's go out to the desert where Jack was living and meet with him, and he's talking about putting together his solo band. So I went out and met him, at that point, and it didn't work out. He wasn't ready to come back at that point. He was still down for the count. But later on that year is when Dario called me and said, hey, Jack's doing a lot better, and he wants to meet you again, because he didn't remember me. Wow. Jack had moved to Redondo Beach at that time, and he was living on his boat, and I come onto the boat, and he goes, I kind of remember you. And I'm like, wow, yeah, we hung out the first day, fine, but the next time I came out by myself and hung out with him all day long, and he still didn't remember. So I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Apparently the poor guy's been through a lot, but gotta love him for still being around and
as long as you can keep doing it. It's not about the age or anything. It's about it's about the passion.
Yeah. See, that's it. Now, when you first were hooking up with those guys, I was curious at the time. Were they still going? Still a fight over the Great White Name, or had that been resolved at that point?
No, that's when it all started, because that night I went and saw him. It was December, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 7th, something like that. And he was kind of going back and forth with them, and he goes, that's it. He goes, I'm firing all those guys, and I'm starting my own version. And he asked me, you want to join the band? Do you want to join Great White? I'm like, and I hesitated. I was like, okay, let's see. Let's do it.
From a fan perspective, the interesting thing to me about all that is, out of all these other bands that have been involved in, legal fight over the name, it seems like eventually Great White, the two parties were able to at least come to an agreement that seems to have stuck. And the thing is, it makes sense calling it Jack Russell's Great White. I mean, to me, we know it's Great White because you got Jack Russell. He is, no matter what anybody says to me, he's the original voice of Great White, always will be.
Absolutely. You can't deny that. I mean, come on. He's the voice and the founder of the band. And anybody, is just whatever. They're bitter for whatever reason. And it's clear. And you know what? And Mark was the original guitar player. And that's just a fact. That's just what it was. And they're the only two original guys playing in Great White. Lauren Black, the original bass player, has died. And then
I wasn't even aware of that.
What's that?
I wasn't even aware of that. Wow.
Yeah, I actually had met him when we first played. I think in 2012 we played in Corona the first time he came out. And it's a couple years after that he passed away.
And interestingly enough, I know the other guitar player in the band now is Tony Montana, that used to play bass in the other Great White with Jack.
Yeah, he's the one who replaced Lauren Black.
Oh, okay.
And he came in after and toured on the Once Bitten record.
Yeah.
As the bass player I think he was in for 5 years.
Yeah. And what's it like for you to, as a guitar team, to be playing with Tony? I mean, do you guys kind of are you the lead guy and he's a rhythm, or do you guys?
No, we split up the solos and stuff. It's we just kind of. I don't know. It just depends on the song or whatever, how it goes, what we do. But usually we're, just kind of throw it out there. Hey, you do this part, or I'll do that, or whatever. It just depends. It really depends.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. Now, I know you guys did the one studio record together, and you were a big part of the songwriting team. What was that like for you?
It was cool. We just kind of got into a groove and just started cranking out these songs. The pressure came on, and we needed songs, and me and Jack really just started working really well together. So I'm actually a writer on every song on the record. Yeah,
that's what I mean. You were a big part of it, and the interesting thing about that is when I picked up the CD, to me, it sounded like a Great White album for the simple fact you got Jack Russell, and but it didn't come across as you guys going in there and say, okay, we're gonna do our best to make this sound like it's just you could hear you guys went in and did what you did, and that's what came out. And
that was kind of the intent, was to go in and not try and redo Great White. I mean, it was like, okay, we can go and try and write a song like Rock Me, or we could do another Save Your Love, but I was like, why?
Yeah, you already got the original.
Go put on the record and listen to it.
Yeah. And that's kind of interesting. You say that because say what you will about the other Great White. I mean, they have, I guess Mark Kendall has his right to have his own version, but it's kind of interesting. Like, they had the other guy, Terry Lewis, and then they act like they were getting along with him, and all of a sudden they kind of did him the same way they did Jack. Just they informed him through an email that hey, we're parting ways or whatever, and they've already got another singer. So at least you guys have pretty much stayed pretty constant with the same lineup.
Yeah, it's been pretty consistent. I mean, you can't say that they haven't, though, because they still have the same four core guys.
Yeah.
And all they did change the singer, which was a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, and see, that's what I'm saying is anytime a band, you're lucky if like in the other Great White's case, they were lucky, I think, that they were able to get Terry Lewis, and people accepted that version of the band for several years, and it seemed like it was really working. And then after all that, for whatever reason, they decided to split with him. But again, getting back to Jack Russell's Great White, I've been hearing stuff recently that you guys have an acoustic version of Once Been, and also an acoustic version of some Led Zeppelin tunes. Now, are these going to be two separate releases, or?
Yes, two separate releases. What it is the acoustic version of Once Bitten, which is done.
Yeah.
It's just basically trying to finalize mixes. So we recorded, the first record we recorded here in my studio, and we recorded the Once Bitten acoustic record here as well. And I've been mixing it, and I just got to make sure that Jack's happy with everything.
Oh, of course,
before, know. So that's kind of where we're at, and we get so busy sometimes it's hard to go, okay, Jack, we need to sit down and listen, and I need your input. I mean, I can't just go, hey, it's done.
Of course.
It's his band.
It's his band, his name, yeah.
And his legacy. So
And whose idea was that? Was that a manager or somebody, or Jack's idea, or?
Probably Jack's.
It's a pretty cool idea because Once Bitten itself is quite an iconic album. So you guys are in the mixing stage, I guess, but any idea like when it might get released? Like, are you thinking summer or before summer?
Hopefully before. Hopefully we're going to be heading out for 10 days and in a couple days here, and then when I get back, I really want to focus on getting the mixes done and getting it out so it can be out by summer. I mean, it's really a killer record. I mean, it really sounds good. Some of the things like, some of the stuff Tony did on it is just killer. I mean, he did some really cool stuff on Never Change Heart.
Yeah.
And there's another one. I mean, they just turned out so good that I'm like, wow. I'm just mixing it. It's just fun listening to it as I'm mixing too. You know, sometimes I just kind of like, I get into the track, and then the vocal performances, you know.
And so these are just really, like you guys going into the studio, just like kind of cutting new acoustic versions now. Being that they're acoustic versions, did any of the songs change that drastically? Being that it's acoustic,
some of them have changed quite a bit. Like Never Change Heart changed quite a bit,
wow.
And the other one, God, I'm spacing out which one it is. It changed quite a bit. Some of them it's pretty close. I mean, Save Your Love sounds really good. It's more haunting.
Okay.
It's very haunting sounding, and it's a really cool sounding track. And some of them, you know, they're pretty close. I mean, I played some of the stuff like exactly how it went. Just thought, you know, why am I going to change it? You know.
Yeah. The original, Great White, they were one of the original bands to really start that unplugged stuff. So it's kind of cool that you guys are going to be. Now, what about the Led Zeppelin?
No, that's different. That's live. That's not.
That's a concert kind of thing you guys did.
It's not acoustic. It's a full band.
Oh, okay. So it's actual live. Okay, that's cool.
And I've got tracks. I have to sift through all the tracks and mix them, and just from different performances we've done, and make sure that I have everything we need to be able to put together. The record. Yeah. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to sit down with everything yet that I've been collecting.
Yeah, one thing at a time, but two cool things to be looking for. And like back when I was growing up, like you had great live albums like Kiss Alive and Cheap Trick Live at Budokan. Now let me ask you though, is it a lot harder to take tracks from different live shows when you're mixing and producing this thing and be able to keep it sounding cohesive? Like,
well, I'm gonna find out.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure yet, so I'm not sure. I mean, I've listened to some of the tracks, and there's a couple of them like, it sounds pretty good on this one, on this particular night. But then there's stuff on there I'm going, okay, we can't use that, So it's gonna be interesting.
So now, of course, a lot of people know, as I'm sure you do, Robbie, being involved with this, that the original Great White, they put out their own Led Zeppelin tribute years ago. Now,
yes.
Now, are these different songs? Or are these different songs?
They're different songs.
Okay.
I don't think there's.
There
might be like one or two repeats. That's it.
And now, as a guitar player, getting back to the acoustic stuff, I was curious. Being a guy that typically is being the lead guitar player and the guy that gets to shred and rock out. What's it like for you to go in there and just kind of play these tunes acoustically?
Well, I don't know. I didn't really think about it. I just kind of went and just did it.
Did what you did, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I guess there's certain things that are certainly challenging. If Mark was doing a dive bomb and something, I can't do that on an acoustic.
Yeah. Now,
but I would, I would compensate with something else, and it just depends. I mean, it was cool. It was fun though. It was fun putting it together.
And so once this comes out, because I know it's a big undertaking, but have you guys given any thoughts to maybe doing like a one-off show or a couple shows, like try and put on an acoustic show to do live, or just for people to come check out live?
That's possible. That is possible. And
then in regards to the Led Zeppelin tribute, is that something that is also coming out this year or maybe next year?
Well, hopefully this year.
Okay.
I think as soon as this other one's done being mixed, I'm gonna attack the other one head on and really try and get that nailed.
Yeah. And how big of a Zepp fan are you?
I love Zeppelin. Yeah, I mean, I originally didn't start off. Back in the day, anybody who might remember this, it was like you were either a Kiss fan or you were a Zeppelin fan. You didn't really like them both.
I'm with you.
I was a Kiss fan. I mean, I was one of the guys that was a Kiss fan. But what happened was when I started playing guitar, I mean, how could I not get into Zeppelin?
Okay.
And then that's the funny thing is I never really went and learned any Kiss songs. I mean, I've learned a few many years later just because somebody wanted to learn them in a lesson or something. But I mean, the Zeppelin stuff, I mean, I've learned a ton of Zeppelin stuff. It was just something you did, and then you start to appreciate. Especially going back now and then relearning a lot of stuff, even more of an appreciation for all the little detail that's in his playing.
Oh wow! And I'm a diehard Kiss fan myself, so I got to ask you. Being a mutual Kiss fan, what do you think about the band supposedly going on their final farewell tour?
Well, I mean, I went and saw the final farewell tour in 1998.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know. That's who knows.
Yeah. And how do you feel about as a Kiss fan, like about Eric and Tommy, wearing the Ace and Peter makeup? Does that matter to you at all?
It doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it at first I thought, well, that's kind of weird because, I mean, it is Peter Criss. I mean, he was the Cat Man, and then Ace, the Spaceman, and all that. It was kind of like, it seemed a little weird. I would have thought that they would have just given them something different, a different personality. Yeah. But, I mean, who am I to say? I mean, it's just, that's just what they do, and that's the business decision they made. So, if they go out and they're successful doing what they're doing, then more power to them.
I mean, I'm with you, the fan. I mean, and it's almost funny because if you think about it for a minute, when you do think of Gene Simmons as a demon, Paul Stanley's a Star Child, and Ace is a spaceman, and Peter's a Catman, those iconic, if you just look at the characters, I mean, even go back to like Kiss Meets the Phantom, that movie, as crazy as it was, the characters have almost, in a way, become as big as the people that play them. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I would say kind of bigger in a way. I mean, for years nobody knew who they were, right? That was such a mystery until they become unmasked, and so in that light, I could see how if I was Peter Criss or Ace Frehley, I'd probably be pretty pissed off because it's kind of like that's their thing. It's their. I can't see how they must be getting paid for somebody else to be doing it. I mean, how could they not? It's their identity.
You'd be
their signature.
You'd be interested if you don't know this, but Gene and Paul being the brilliant guys that they are, from what I understand, when the other guys left the band, they actually they copyrighted those designs and they bought the copyright to them.
Wow!
That stuff is all copyrighted down to. It's just amazing. And I think when the other guys are in the band, they have to. You get their permission or somebody to use it. It's just crazy.
Wow, that's insane.
And have you ever being that you're such a Kiss fan, I was curious, in all your years of touring as a musician, have you ever crossed paths with them?
Well, not on the road, but I've met Gene, Ace, Peter. Did I meet Paul? I don't think I did meet Paul. I mean, I met Gene because I was working with this guy who was writing for me. He wrote Animalized, and he wrote Psycho Circus.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was producing a band I was in 97, 98, and Gene and Paul, all those guys Bruce Kulick lived at his house, at this guy's house at the time.
Oh, wow.
Bruce was just out of the band, but, they would come over to the house all the time. And at that time, Gene Simmons was interested in the band that we had that this guy was producing. Oh,
okay. Wow. That's small world,
that was kind of cool. And I got to meet Gene and talk with him and stuff. And it was like, it was kind of like a kid in a candy store, sort of. I wasn't running around going crazy, but I'm like, wow. I was kind of just more like just smiling and listening to him talk, but not really hearing what he was saying. Like, wow, I'm talking to Gene.
Yeah. Getting back to Jack Russell's Great White, you guys came out with such a great first album. I mean, I am excited that 2019 we were already talking about getting 2 new albums from you guys, but has there been any talk about going in and doing a follow-up studio?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We have some tracks that Jack and I have already written that we're talking about maybe putting out a couple singles ahead of it, just because.
Yeah, that's the way it's done these days, huh?
Yeah, and the thing is, there's this one track is just unbelievably. It's just amazing. It's a slow blues track. It's kind of in the vein, I want to say, of like House of Broken Love, but I want to say more like in the vein of Zeppelin, though. Really, I mean, it is stellar. I mean, the demos that I have is just me playing like all the licks through it and a basic guitar and him singing over it, and it's just chills listening to it. Like, wow, this is just a raw demo.
And you guys, like a lot of bands these days, you do like a lot of these weekend, I guess, shows and stuff. But
yeah.
Do you ever do any extensive touring where you're like gone for like a solid week or anything like that?
Well, yeah, I'm going to be gone like about 9-10 days coming up here in a few days. But yeah, last fall we were out for how long? I can't remember now.
Okay. Anyways, the reason I was asking, I was curious. Like, when you guys are on the band, do you ever work on like new material or try to jam stuff out, or do you save that for
you
studio?
would think you would try, but it's just there's just no time for
it.
And it was man, that was a rough run. Every time we do runs of any length of time, it's I don't know. We're better off doing weekends. I mean, each time we've done it, Jack will say the same thing. I don't want to do that again. And then not to say that we wouldn't, because if the right thing came up,
you would, yeah.
We probably would, but it's kind of like just to go out to do it is kind of like, we don't want to put Jack through the ringer either. We want to make sure his voice is still working, and you can't overwork him. And the thing is, the way he sings, the intensity he sings every night is, how hard of a job that is. It's incredibly difficult to sing that way every night. And he doesn't like to go out there and, he doesn't go out and phone it in. He goes out and he delivers it to the best of his ability every night, and it's extremely difficult. It's not like, for me, I got a cold, I can still play, or, I actually, on that run, I had a broken foot. Yeah, I had a broken foot. I could still play. But if he's got any kind of issues, he's had plenty of broken feet, so I guess that doesn't count. I guess singing like that, it's super difficult.
I guess they say don't count the guy out. I mean, he seems to be a real warrior in that sense. I mean, I heard some of the other guys trash talking from other band, and it's like, man, just leave him alone, let him do his thing. I mean, it's to me, I think, for all the issues he used to have with his addictions and that, it seems like he's really overcome all that.
Yeah, he's doing well, and you can't count him out. That's the thing. If you count him out, you're stupid.
Yeah.
Why would you count him out? You just can't do it. So I mean, you can do whatever you want, but the only one when it's he counts himself out is when he's out. Only when he does it, or God does it, however you want to look at it, whatever. But there's an agenda behind it, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Don't even listen to that nonsense. I don't listen to any of the stuff. I don't care.
Yeah. And in regards to working towards a new studio album, I was curious, Robbie, like, do you have any stuff left over that didn't make it on the debut that you may revisit, or do you prefer to?
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
We do. We have a track that's done. It's been sitting there done, and I kind of have a rough mix of it going.
Yeah.
And we played it to a few people. They're like, "Wow, why didn't you put that on the record?" It basically sounds like an AC/DC song ish for sure, But I think we're going to use it because people seem to really like it. So Jack wants to go in and change a couple things vocally.
So you guys test some of this out live just to kind of see how the fans react to it, or?
No, we don't. He doesn't like doing that.
Okay. Well,
because and I get the thinking is because everybody's got their cell phones, and he doesn't want people to hear it for the first time on a cell phone because just everything sounds like crap over it. There's nothing you can do. But the flip side of that is typically that's where people hear it for the first time anyhow. You put out a new record, you go out and do the songs live, and guess what? Most people don't have the record.
Yeah.
So.
And then so far you guys only got the debut album, but let me ask you, when you get another studio album out there, how much of the stuff you guys have done with Jack are you going to fit into the live set versus, or is it pretty much people want to come and hear the classic stuff?
I think people are pretty open to a lot of the new stuff because for sure I have people come up to me all the time. Oh, you didn't play the song off of the new record all the time.
Yeah.
There's people want to hear stuff off of the new record. We'll definitely. I think the next record will probably play a little more. I think there was a couple of the songs that were extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Something like He Saw It Coming was just, I mean, I think we were all a little timid
Yeah.
to try and pull that one off live. It was just, I
Yeah.
mean, it was, it's quite the arrangement.
I mean, one of my favorite tracks off that I think was called "Sign of the Times." I think you guys did a video for that. That was a
Yeah, we played that one live. We played that one live. We played My Addiction live, and we're talking about doing Love Don't Live Here live. He's thinking about putting that one in there. We were going to do Crazy live. I think that one would be cool. We'd actually worked it up. We never did actually perform it. It seems like that would be a cool one to do live.
Yeah, definitely. And see, that's the thing is, I gotta say, you guys really delivered on that on that album, because for the simple fact, you don't just have one, and you could tell early that all the hard work and dedication went into it, because simple fact that you don't just have a case where like Sign of the Times, okay, this is a single, this is the best sounding song on here. They all really stand out on their own, and I gotta give you guys really kudos for that, you know.
Oh, cool, thanks. I mean, I would agree with that for sure. I mean, we did a thing when it came out, because we're like, boy, I mean, what song? Who knows, you know? And we started running a thing, what's your favorite song? And I tell you what, it was even across the board. Every single track on that record was somebody's favorite song, every single one. And multiple people would be, oh, you like the acapella piece, oh, that's their favorite, or whatever. Each song had multiple people. Then we were like, oh, what's your top three? And then you look at the top three, and it's like, it's so it wasn't like, oh, these 1, 2, or 3 tracks and the rest are at the bottom. It wasn't like that at all.
Wow, you know, and I know you're quite busy, obviously with Jack Russell's Great White, but are you involved in any solo projects or anything on the side, Robbie?
You know, at the moment, not really. There's some studio stuff I'm trying to finish up, and I've been working with a couple kids who were students of mine at one time. They've got some really good music. I'm trying to get that done.
Do you teach guitar? I was curious, because a lot of guys do.
Yeah, I taught guitar for a long time.
Oh, wow. And being that you have your own studio, I was curious, do you ever have other people come into your studio and produce them, or?
Just the couple that I have right now, the two kids, a boy and a girl, that are separately. You know, each one of them, I do their product. Just one kid goes by Dato.
Okay.
And then Emily, I don't know what she's going by right now. Their last name, she changes it around, but just Emily. Both real pretty different stuff, but really good music. And I'm just trying to finish that up, get their stuff out. And Emily, who wants to do another record already, has got a bunch of music. And so, I mean, I'll continue working with them, but I just need to do it in a more timely manner than I've been doing. But other than that, I really haven't taken anyone else on, because I just haven't had the time.
And when you these are younger kids, like what age? I was just curious.
Now they're in their 20s. When I first started working, with Emily, she was 13, 14. I think Dato was the same age.
Oh, wow. What's that? I mean, you've practically seen these guys grow up. That's got to be a cool feeling to see them, progress to this level.
It's been a long running thing. I mean, like with Emily, though, it was a little different. She came in, and by the second lesson, we were like, oh, she goes, I write. And I was going, oh, really? Well, I'll help you with writing, because, I'll help students do it. And I was going, hey, this is pretty cool. And I was like, this is pretty cool music. And I would start putting chords and helping her with the melodies and arranging the stuff. And then I brought in my little 2480 Roland into where I was teaching at Padrini Music at the time, and we would just template stuff out. And then eventually it was like, okay, let's get in the studio. Let's do this for real. And then we brought in a real drummer. We brought in Felix Pillard, who's really smoking drummers, played with a lot of people. He's played with Lionel Richie. I mean, I don't even remember how many people. He's a lot of guys. But amazing. Really cool. So we put his drums down, and then she's singing. I'm pretty much doing all the guitar. I have a couple students that play bass, that I got them to play bass on it.
Oh, wow.
Just for the experience of doing it. And then the other kid with Nick Dato, he took lessons for a long time before he came in one day, and he goes, I have a song. I go, really? Because really his guitar playing wasn't getting anywhere fast at all. It was just like, man, boy, we're just trudging water here. But once he started writing, everything changed.
Wow, amazing. Now, before we wrap this up, of course, we were talking a lot about how you're like one of the main songwriters in the band, and that's a great thing to have the ability to be a songwriter. I mean, that's a great way to kind of make money. But to me, that's the thing. Like to be in any successful band, you got to have the songs. I mean, you can be in a band that has 4 or 5 great looking guys, but you're not going to go very far. So my question was, like, early on, Did you know you wanted to learn how to write songs besides just being a great lead guitar player?
Oh yeah, I've always been a songwriter.
Yeah.
I've got lots of music that people haven't heard, and it's like as much it's as eclectic as that first record was with Jack.
Yeah.
That's how my songwriting is. I mean, it's eclectic stuff. That's like that post-pop punk stuff, and then 80s metal, and then I've got some stuff that's kind of industrial. I guess it's got a ton of different stuff that's just sitting unreleased. Some Beatlesy sounding stuff.
Wow.
So, I just, and with Jack, it was a matter of sitting with him and going, okay, everything's got to work for him.
Yeah.
So, I pretty quickly understood, and we just got into this groove, and it was like we could just write really well together. There's no, it's hard to explain, but it's just like there's really no friction in the writing, which I've never really experienced with anyone before, such a free flow of writing.
Yeah.
Because we just start writing, and it's just like, oh, how about this? Okay, great. Or it's just weird how it comes out. It's like we're being guided, or we both believe the same way. We have a very spiritual belief towards everything in life.
Yeah.
And it definitely comes through in the songwriting, because when we write, it is so, he's not, like if I come up with an idea, he's not going to, it's one of these things, like if I come up with something, I go, this may be way off the wall, but let me throw it at you. And he might go, okay, no, it won't work. And I'm like, that's fine. But a lot of times he'll go, you know what, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And he'll do the same thing to me. He'll come up, like he came up with the idea for She Moves Me. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. I'm like, I don't get it. I didn't get it at first, and we were in Washington at the time, and I go, I don't get it, but let me mess with the idea. And when we came home, I sat in the studio and arranged it and put stuff together, and I was like, man, this is really super cool, actually. Super vibey. And then he was like, yeah, I told you. I go, hey, I didn't doubt you. I just didn't get it at the moment.
And see, not that you guys are like Lennon and McCartney, but I will say this, like, just listening to that debut album you guys put out, it does flow nice, and it's like, you guys are two key writers, and so I do believe, like, if you were to ever leave the band or anything, and they bring in another writer, they could probably do stuff equally as good, but it definitely, but it would be somewhat altered, if you know what I mean, because just taking that one little influence out of the band can change things, majorly.
Yeah, sure.
And so when you
change any ingredient in anything, it definitely changes.
And my point being this is, when you got a great chemistry with somebody like that, you want to kind of really you do your best to nurture it, And it seems like you guys are on to a great start.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of tracking some of the new stuff we're doing, because I think the first record was really, really good, but I think we can top it as good as it. I really like that record, and if I didn't, I wouldn't, and because there's stuff I've written that I go, man, that's garbage. Yeah. I'll listen to a lot of stuff I've got, because I've written a lot of songs, and I've got a lot of songs that are crap. I'm like, okay, that's not that good, is it? I listen to it, and I'm pretty well able to sit back and listen to it from an outside ear and go, okay, that's decent, that's okay, that's good, that's great. This record, when I listen to it, even I haven't listened to it in a long time, I put it on, I go, man, wow, that's really good. But I think that we could top it. I'm sure we could top it.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, it's cool to be like that, Rob, because there's some people that think everything they do sounds great, so to have the ability to kind of realize, okay, no, this is what stands out, this one stinks, be able to weed through it, that's great to have that ability to do that. And getting back now, would you ever have an interest in put out like a Robby Lochner solo CD one day? And if you did, I was curious, would it be more like a guitar-oriented album, or would you want to?
I don't know. I've done two already.
I
have one that I just got a mail from somebody today who picked up the one I put out in '97. He goes, I've listened to it 5 times. Man, people need to hear it. How great it is, and it's like 5 instrumentals and a bunch of different singers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's cool. It's a good record. It's got a vibe to it. And there are some good tracks on it, but there's some tracks to me that I'm like, it's all right. It's not great, but there's a vibe on the tracks. And then I did the other record, where it was my first one, producing and doing everything myself. And I think there's some good tracks on that as well. I sang on it and stuff, but there's some stuff on there that the same thing, kind of like, that's not so, there's some good tracks, but it's not loaded. Now, if I were to do another one, I've got some songs that I think I've got a couple of tracks that are really strong that I would probably want to put on there that are more like you would go, wow, that's not what I expected, you know.
Yeah, and now let me ask you, if you were to do another one, would it be the same type of thing, like a combination of vocals and instrumental, or do you prefer one over the other, like vocal tracks versus instrumental?
I prefer vocal tracks, but I think I would do one that would be split again.
Yeah, it makes sense, I mean, for one thing, when you have vocal tracks, it's kind of easier to listen to it. People like, they listen to a song and they try to, oh, this is what the song's about, whereas if you listen to an instrumental track, it's more based on maybe a feeling. You listen to it. Oh, this is a feeling I get out of it.
Yeah.
Or an emotion even. And now, but those first two solo albums, can people still get copies of those if they want, or are they out of print?
The first one is really difficult. I think. I only have one copy.
Uh-huh.
There was and this guy told me he got it from England, and I went, There was about 1,000 of them ordered from what do you call them?
Mail order type thing. Yeah, well, let me ask you, Robbie.
This company that ordered like about 1,000 of them, they did like 500 and then 500 and distributor. That's what I'm looking for over in England. So I go, oh, okay. So they're floating around there, But then there's stuff like in Romania, and not a whole lot.
Now let me ask you, in a case like that where like a distributor buys a lot of those CDs to sell, do you even see it like any royalties from that, or?
Oh, I haven't seen anything other than the money that came initially when it sold. That was it.
And for purposes of like maybe your fans, if you wanted to like put those out again on your own, do you own the rights to them, or do you have to go through it? Oh, that's cool.
So there's a possibility that a first one would come out. The second one, I still have CDs that I sell. We'll sell them at shows.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's
possible that it might get re-released, maybe.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm definitely have to check that out, see if I can get my hand on any of those. But now in regards to the studio album you guys are working on, probably that would come out, do you think, later in the year, or do you think maybe next year?
That's so hard to say. I mean, when the schedule gets going, it's so hard to finish stuff up.
I'm kind of guessing, two CDs coming out this year, that's enough for your fans,
Yeah, I mean, I would love to get another one out. At least I want to get a single, or, it'd be great if it was an A-side, B-side. Because there's another track that's really pretty cool, too, pretty rockin' tune that would be nice to have with it, kind of at least two.
And on that front, I got to ask, are you, like when I was growing up, I was a fan of like actually have physical CDs, holding the CDs in your hand, and reading the liner notes and the artwork and that. Do you see a day when you guys might not be releasing any physical CDs? Or what are your thoughts on that?
We want to keep releasing them as long as people keep buying them.
Yeah, I hear you. And well, Rob, the other thing I was going to ask in regards to like the Led Zeppelin tribute, any chance you guys might have like a DVD to go with that, or probably not?
No, because there wasn't any
like one show
filming going on. Because that's the thing is that would be pretty cool to do.
Yeah,
it's all just audio.
Oh well, it'd be a cool little thing to have, like I said. So
it would be.
We're getting an acoustic, CD this year, and then a Led Zeppelin tribute. And then I dig the fact too that when you guys are, because like I said, the original Great White did a Led Zeppelin tribute. I dig the fact that it's not one of these things where you guys are just kind of repackaging the old thing, or just like this band going in and doing the same songs. You're giving the fans a little something different than what they originally got, the first time around.
Oh yeah.
To make it a little more special, And so I'll tell you what, Robbie, I'd like to. I really enjoyed talking to you. So thanks for taking time to talk to me today. And I'll tell you what, when the other two CDs get released, especially if the acoustic one comes first, let me know, and I'd be happy to do another interview with you to help promote that, because I'm a huge fan of Jack Russell and what you guys do. So this interview itself that we did, I'm looking to it'll probably be posted sometime in late March or early April, because I've been interviewing these guys that either played the Ronnie Montrose Remember event, people that were influenced by him or actually played with him. Like today I interviewed Ed Roth, and
cool.
And so I've interviewed Keith St. John and Mark Manila the other day. And so I have a few more people to interview, and then once I get all the interviews done, we're going to start posting them a few at a time, kind of in the order they were done. So I just have a few more people to interview. So thanks so much for being a part of this, and I'll let you know when it gets posted, okay?
Thanks.
Thanks again, Robbie. Take care. Bye-bye.